Last week, I introduced a new mini series I'm calling The Harvest, and that came about because of what I experienced in 2017, which was the robust array of possibilities and potentialities collapsing on itself, and only two probabilities and timelines, however you want to define that, remains. And since then, those two timelines have become quite rigid, meaning it's very difficult to jump from one to the other. And I also indicated that everything is real. And what do I mean by that? Well, we're talking about everything from aliens to UFOs to alternate timelines, metaphysics, quantum physics, you name it, everything unseen. That's real. And it's not what you think it is. So, what is the harvest? Well, let's talk about it.
Would you like fries for that? Would you like fries for that?
Welcome back to the Alexa channel. Okay, so we are going to focus on the harvest. And in order to do that, we need to lay some foundational work, or else you're going to get lost in the weeds and it's really not going to make a whole lot of sense or even change within you or your goal. I guess that would be a good way of stating it. So we're going to do a quick exercise. I want you to look up the meaning of your name. There are biblical names. There's, just look it up and get that information and write it down. And then the second part is I want you to open a Bible and I want you to take the first two digits of your birthday, month and day, and see what passage corresponds with that. This is a great thing to do. I did it recently, and it's very, very interesting, and it will reveal a lot because when you were formed and created, you were given certain gifts and tasks to do in this planet. So take a look at it. Now, really read it and think, is this who I am? Is this in my heart? Am I representing the gifts that God gave me in this world? And if it's not, that's okay too, because we're going to talk about that. So, on that vein, I want you to take a really, really honest inventory of yourself and where you are. What's in your heart? What does your life look like around you? What have you created? Because you create everything in micro decisions. Every little decision moves you toward creating your life and how it looks from the outside and how it feels on the inside. So, what is it? What does it look like? Does it feel good? Does it feel bad? Let's pretend that you are hovering over your funeral. So what are people going to say about you? What are you going to hear about you? Because that's what you're creating here in this world. So let's look at that. There are two realities that have collapsed from the very robust array of realities. And that happened in 2017. And for those of you just joining, I am a type of seer. I have been my whole life. Literally 1 foot in a higher realm and 1 foot in this planet, and none of it made sense to me. And I only learned later that I'm a sort of, I guess, historian, you might say. I see everything happening at the same time. And I also see energies, I see entities, and that's the good guys and the bad guys. Well, bad meaning dark, light, however you want to define it. And although I walk firmly with Jesus, and I'm going to say that up front, I am not a religious person. I wasn't raised in the church, but ironically, Jesus has walked with me and presented himself to me and taught me and comforted me my entire life. So, in a nutshell, my job here, and even doing this series, is to show you that you can have a deeply, deeply personal, very real relationship with Jesus. I can testify to that. And as an NDE, multiple NDE survivor, I know what's on the other side waiting for you. One, in reality, I can only guess about the other. And it's very real. And we're in the days of Noah, guys. You know, I don't think that darkness was ever truly wiped out during the flood. And I think it has just become more organized and efficient. And there's a lot of deception. That's how they bring you into these agreements and things that we're going to talk about. So, yeah, if maybe even a couple of people are helped by this series, I'm grateful, very, very grateful. So let's figure out where you are on this, okay? We are spiritual beings having an earthly experience, but a lot of people have inverted that. They don't think that the unseen carries weight. And every single choice you make, every decision, everything that you put out in the world, it's marked by God. Like he literally sees everything you do, even if it's private, even if you're just having thoughts. And then the kingdom of darkness will parlay that and come on in through that little questioning or deception or so this is why I want to put that on your radar, because it's never too late. We have a way to get close to God, even in dark times, even if you have sinned, even if you have done horrible things. And as a seer, I can tell you that I see them on people. I see entities on people, as well as Christed energy on people. And that's what has made my time here so challenging and freaky, to be honest. But the saddest thing is of my entire life, the grief that I've walked with, is that people do not love each other. It still makes me cry. So I'm not going to cry today. We're going to go on and get through the material. That's a thing for me, guys, so I'm sorry. Okay, so we're going to survey your life. You're going to look back and you're going to honestly ask yourself, where are you? And why are you there? What decisions have you made? Are you comfortable in your body? Are you happy? Do you have joy? Do you feel fulfilled? Or the opposite? So where did it start? Let's go way back. Let's go back to childhood, because, you know, trauma is real. And, speaking of trauma, let me give you a little quote here that I love a lot. Jordan Peterson is a pretty amazing person, and he talks about malevolence. And when malevolence causes PTSD, it's not from the actual hurt. It's when people encountering someone who wanted to hurt them. That's his quote. So we're dealing with a kingdom of darkness here. Little g God, right? Never left, and he's just become more infiltrated in every system. And that's what happens. The goal of this system is to traumatize people when they're really young, so that they forget their divinity, they forget their connection with God and why they're even here, so they fall. And the saddest thing is that trauma, it really is not the hurt. It's the intention that people you care about, people you love, and you support have an intention to harm you. It's devastating. And the darkness is counting on that to fracture people away from holiness and God, frankly. And I think it affects me so much because that's what I have seen and perceived, again, as a seer. There is nothing hidden, and there are no lies. So even as a child, when you're communicating with an adult, you see the brokenness, you see the darkness, you see the entities wrapped around people. And I'm not the only one. There's, plenty of people out there. Okay, so how do you identify it? So let's look at the first thing. Did you have safety or insecurity as a child? That's one. Were you supported or were you abandoned? Did you have peace or did you have chaos? Did you have autonomy of self, or were you under control? Did you have nurturing environments, or did you feel pain? And the list goes on and on. This is just a baseline. Write it down, make an inventory of your life and where you are and how you move through the world based on those hurts. Because the thing is, you had a chance to process it, okay, and move through that. And the way you do that is either through love or fear. So if you are still in these things, that means you are paralyzed under servitude of fear, and we want to break that. But if you're not, and even despite all those things, you maintain a loving heart and you maintain the preciousness of that, well, that's because you have looked at it, looked the dragon in the face and said, I refuse. I know the truth and I'm not going to let you take me down. So you're going to see people like that in your life on both sides. And I don't know. I guess it's just, is your life good or is it bad? And it's all determined by your decisions and how did you synthesize the pain, the hurt. You know, people sit in their puddles of pain and they get stuck and paralyzed in that loop. And that's when you're in trouble. The fear of facing realities is what darkness is counting on. Trauma, betrayal, pain, slavery, all of that comes from the inability to connect to your divinity. All right. So what lens did you use? Which one? Love or fear? And this is going to determine your life, right? It's a reflection of your heart. So if you have maintained a servitude of fear, let's call it, as a child, and you never were able to kick it, well, the lens through which you see others in your life is going to be through that same lens of fear. It's self-reflective and it projects. So if you think that someone in the world is, I don't know, let's use some ideas here. Control, so you might experience your life through control and then assume that of others. They're going to control you. The same goes for abuse, neglect, rage, chaos, abandonment. So, the list is on and on. So what you accuse others of is what you yourself are maintaining and holding on to, sadly. And then through that, we've got drama, jealousy, judgment, gossip, lies, create altars. This is a new one I learned about. I didn't have that word until recently. Altars, I am nowhere near an expert in this. I'm the seer and I feel and I see the energy. I don't educate on these type of things, but these are openings, as I understand it, to the darkness that keep you in a place of worship through the idolatry of whatever that is, right? So, I don't know. So if I'm gossiping or hurting others, it gives the darkness a crack in and it creates something that is trapped you into that, locked you into that space of darkness. And that's not what we want, right? And the list for that is pretty awful. You get into demonic activity, satanic activity, you get into having relationships or being under the thumb of principalities, which are fallen angels, some of the top tier. I think that's what you call them. Again, I only see things. I don't have lexicon for it, definitions. But it's all real. And the light is as real as the darkness. So let's not focus on all of that darkness, because the more you go down that rabbit hole, the more entrenched you are in that. It's important to know that you have salvation through another source, a source of light. You're not trapped ever. That is the deception. That's the big deception. You will get to a point where you see the demons or feel them or however you experience it, and they're just an annoyance. They're like a little cockroach, frankly. Okay. And then how can I help you here understand? Okay, so on that same note, not everybody's good. And that's a lesson I had to learn. Um, Actually, recently, back to that lens of how you see the world. If you see a loving, kind world, you will even see the darkness in that light. And it is devastating because if they're dark, they're dark. They're going to do everything to control, to take you down. And the good news is, if that's the case with you, even at your lowest, that's when the magic happens. That's when God and Jesus come in and they offer you a way to stretch. In the Bible, they talk about forging silver in the fire. And someone, can't remember who it was, said, you can't forge silver in a fire without having someone holding it and watching it and sitting vigilant over it, because it has to be perfectly timed. You take that silver out of the fire when it's ready. You can lose the whole thing if you don't do that properly. It's like any artisanal work, right? Well, the person tending that is God. And so you might experience challenges that will devastate you and cause grief and pain and suffering and all the things that go along with that. But you're not alone. God sees everything, and you will never be left alone. I'm not going to cry again. Okay. Okay. So then, if you're not experiencing any of these things and you're like, hey, no, I'm moving along and I'm fine and neutral, take a look at your bloodlines, because the darkness moves down generational trauma. So it might not be you. It could be your mom. It could be your dad. It could be your great, 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 whatever. It will manifest in your family somehow. Again, I see that as literal entities, energies, and expressions and all that jazz. But look at your life. What is the repeating pattern in there? Because that could be a bloodline issue, an ancestral issue. And you want to clear those out too. And it's totally possible to do that. I don't do deliverance. I'm more of a historian, like I say. I can see through the veil, but there are people who do this. And I recently, what about a year ago, found 3 of them whom I really like. Apostle Issy, ISI. Katie Souza is great, and Dan Duvall. And they're all on the deep end with Taylor Welch. I found that, and that has been an amazing resource. So take a look at that. If you feel like you want to start breaking all this stuff out, they're great. Excellent material. Okay. Which brings me to an actual Bible verse that I have written down because I can never remember the chapters and all that. So, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this world's darkness, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Yeah, we do. So this stuff is real, and we can't understand anything that I'm going to talk about in the next 2 or 3 episodes unless you understand that darkness is real, light is real, and it is literally Jesus versus the devil. And I don't know. It's showing up everywhere. This world is littered with it. And okay, I was going to save this until tomorrow, but one of the prophecies that Jesus gave me not too long ago was an image of 2 rectangular stones, and one was pitch black and one was a little bit more gray, but they were butted up against each other, kind of in a resistant state. And I take that to understand that while there is a majority of darkness, there are a lot of us that are rising up and lifting ourselves up through Christ in order to fight the final battle, because we are in end times, guys. And like, again, nobody knows the day or the hour, but we are in that end little section. All you have to do is look around. It's really, it's not like it used to be. And we're going to get into the discussion of timelines and how they've been altered and shifted and all that jazz. But we are in a deeply spiritual war, and it's important to get yourself on the right side, because nobody really wants to go to the pit and burn for eternity, but I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe some are very, very conscious of that and want to. But that is not my audience. I am speaking to the people that are on the fence and perhaps thinking, I might give this Jesus thing a spin and try. So, all right, let's keep going. I digress. Okay, so what do you do if you are ready to explore moving closer to Jesus? Well, first of all, take an inventory and figure out what you've been doing. I like to start with the basics. Let's look at the 10 Commandments. I mean, those are pretty basic things. There's no other God before the Lord your God. So little gods, plural, they don't work. So this includes idols, which is the second commandment. Make no idols, right? In his image. And people make idols all the time. They are, okay, I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but it's true. Astrology. What's it called? Necromancy. I don't know, all those little juju things where you're trying to control the outcome. That's not good. And then we can get into another whole thing of materialism. We can pray at the altar of money. We can become addicted to relationships, people, places, things, and that's an idol. Not just the little 3D things, which, by the way, I would stay away from those too. And I know it's hard for some religions because they've got all these little statues and things. I wouldn't do it. We can get into that another time too. But yeah, idols is a complicated subject. It's far more than just a 3D thing. It's whatever you replace God with in your daily life. What do you pray to? A lot of it's money and control, which gets in that fear category, which sucks. And yeah. All right, so we're going to keep going. Let's see. You shall not take the Lord God your name in vain. Okay, keep the Sabbath. Have a holy day. Spend some time with God. But don't be the asshole that is an asshole all week long and then goes to church and says, oh, I'm fine. I just washed away all my sins. That's not going to cut it. That's not what we're talking about. Okay, you are commanded to live a holy life, and that is not easy. And you'll lose friends, you'll lose family. People will think you're a little bit crazy because this world right now does not hold up people who are holy and who live in a good way. That conversation's huge. Okay. Set yourself apart at least once a day from the world and honor God and worship God and ask Him to show you the parts of you that need healing. And learn to have a day of a relationship, and that can expand your life and change your life significantly. If you have to set yourself apart from people, do it. Don't worry about what people think. As a society, we are so glued into the television and these Hollywood things, and we have to be a certain way. And no, the only thing God said is you've got to try to be like God here in this world and have a good heart. That's the goal. If you're not on that target, then this is for you. All right, we're going to keep moving. Okay, don't commit adultery. I mean, as easy as you would think that is taking a lot of people down. So stay away from that. Don't steal. Don't bear false witness. Don't lie against people and gossip. And it is the most destructive thing, because we're back into that lens of seeing life through the pain and fear of your dark heart, basically. And then don't covet, the jealousy thing. Just, there's no point. Get right with yourself and God before you start doing that. This world is built for the opposite of all these things. And a lot of people, not a lot, but some people get all knotted up in the oaths they take, the pledges they take, because they want control, they want power, and they end up getting into a form of slavery, which they exercise upon others. Awful. So don't do that. That's pretty simple. And we all know the names of those groups. I'm not going to say it here. But they're, that's an alliance, a satanic alliance. And we need to open our eyes to that, because it starts within you. Because if you align yourself with any of these things that I just spoke about, the 10 Commandments, the darkness, all of that, you are feeding into the system. And I can tell you what that looks like. And it is horrendous. I can see it on people. I can see it on buildings. You don't want to go there. Keep a pure heart, because everything that you do that is not godly, that God did not mandate, is feeding into that system. And it is nasty. So, sorry, it's very intense. I'm very intense about this stuff. I just wish people would love each other. That would be so easy, so much easier. And then we're going to quickly go over the 7 deadly sins. If you're into that as well, or deeply, or a little bit, or maybe you hadn't even thought about it, let's talk about it. Okay, we've got sloth. The opposite of that is diligence. So which one are you? We've got gluttony. That's a big one. Food and just everything that you do too much of. The opposite is temperance. And then you've got lust. Big thing now. Society has lost their mind. There are people with no clothes on in the world. There are people that are just, sex is like nothing. So let's try to be a little bit more chaste, into chastity. Then we've got wrath, but then patience is on the other side. We've got envy, which is opposite is kindness. We've got avarice, which is charity, avarice being greed, charity, and then we've got pride, which is humility. Where are you on that? Check the boxes. Look at your life. Okay. Awareness is everything. You just got to figure out where you are. And sometimes all this darkness isn't loud. It can be anxiety, depression, suicidal ideations. That is definitely demonic activity that comes in. There's a 30-minute window when suicide sounds decent for people. I learned that in my psychology training. And what happens is that is some demonic, satanic stuff that's coming in on you. And you got to backtrack and figure out where you made the agreement for that to come in. So, so it can be really ugly and loud. It can be quiet and on you when you're not around anybody or doing anything. So, all right. What did I not cover today? That's a lot. We're going to take this that I just talked about into the next episode, where I'm going to talk about specifically everything unseen, aliens, UFOs, interdimensional realities, fractures, soul fractures, I don't know, all that. We'll see where we go with it. I'm basically processing the world out loud at this point with you. I don't know where we go. It's just, let's see where Holy Spirit takes us. But I don't know, guys. It's a sad, sad state of the world right now. And there are a lot of NPCs walking around, non-player characters, and they're kind of, I guess someone called them background people. Yeah, we're going to talk about that too. So thank you for watching, and let's talk some more soon. Okay, bye.